Hello everyone, Memory here. FlameBlast has been a dead skill that no one really cares about because casting it will root you in place, which for anyone who has played Path of Exile before would know that if you are not constantly moving all the time, you are more likely going to have a high death count. And FlameBlast does not have high enough damage to justify this huge downside. At the time of making this video, there are only 6 people using FlameBlast in 3.16 according to POE Ninja. But in the 3.17 patch notes, FlameBlast is receiving a huge buff, which I think have a high chance to make this skill viable. Let me explain. First of all, what you're seeing on the screen is my version of FlameBlast Witch doing a tier 14 map. The first thing that makes people dislike the build is the fact that it requires some positioning to play the build properly. Because again, channeling the spell roots you in place and your damage does not come out instantly. However, if you set up your defense properly, you won't really die too much. And with lots of AoE and cast speed invested, the mapping speed is actually acceptable. It can handle the Scourge mob quite nicely as well, since you can use Veil FlameBlast to guarantee your safety when you enter the Scourge realm. Now, one of the major problems is it's not so great at dealing with bosses, and here is where the 3.17 change comes in. FlameBlast is receiving roughly 50% more damage, which makes this current build from having just enough damage to do high tier map to definitely have enough damage to do high tier maps. Another buff on the patch notes with FlameBlast is they are giving it some improvements to make it a great skill to deal high damage to single targets. In other words, making the skill from a failure of a bossing skill into, I'm guessing, at least something reasonable to deal with bosses. They didn't specify how they're going to do it, but I have hope, since FlameBlast has been a dead skill for a long time, and if they are ever going to make people play the skill, they'll have to really beef it up. What I'm trying to say is, if this build can perform at this level before the buff, it has potential to become a premium build with a low cost after the buff, since it's not a meta skill. Now, in terms of cost, it's fairly obtainable in 3.16, and that might also be the case in 3.17, since I'm guessing probably not many people are going to play this build in the next league. So let's have a look at my current gears and jewels to give you an idea of its costs. First one is the Innocent Staff. It's around 1 to 2x for a 6-link. Chevron's Wrapping 2 to 3x for a 6-link. That is the 2 most expensive thing for this build out of the way. Next, we have the Presence of Chalula Amulet, 100 chaos to 1 exalt. Let's just say 2 exalts with the current anointment because it uses 2 golden oils, and the gold oils are around 50 chaos each. And then we have Replica Emberwake Ring, 50 to 100 chaos, which can be replaced with either a regular Emberwake, which is a 1 chaos ring, or the 50 chaos Taming Ring. The other ring slot is the Flammability on Hit ring that also fixes my stat problem. Now, it might be more difficult to obtain this ring because they are making the Conqueror's optional content. They have specified what they're gonna do with the Mark on Hit mods, but at the time of making this video, I haven't found any info about what they're gonna do with the Hex on Hit mods. However, this can easily be solved by putting the Curse on Arcanist brand, so it's not a big problem. This ring cost me around 50 chaos as well, so I'll use that number for now. Same with the Inward-Eyed Helmet. Cyrus is also going to be optional content, so this helmet might be more expensive in the next league. But if it does become too expensive, then it can be replaced with the Brian Crown for the same amount of defense, with the 20% damage lost. The rest of the yellow gears are just energy shield, armor, and resistance, and you can buy them all within 1 to 2 exalts. If you went for the Taming Ring instead of the Replica Emberwake, you can probably save around 100 chaos on your yellow gears because you won't be needing as much elemental resistance on your yellow gears. As for the jewels, I've got a large Thread of Hope around 50 chaos, intuitively 30 chaos, and here I have a Cold Steel jewel, which has nothing to do with this build. I only get it because it is the cheapest jewel at 1 chaos that has Corrupted Blood immune implicit on it. This slot was originally here for Watcher's Eye with physical damage reduction on determination. but it is definitely out of my budget, especially with the corrupted blood implicit, so I ended up getting this one instead. Finally, the cluster jewels that might be scary looking for some people. Don't worry, these are cheap because the skills needed on these clusters are off meta. All 5 of these clusters together were bought with less than 100 kills in 3.16. If no one plays this build, you can expect similar costs in 3.17. The total cost of this build is roughly around 10 exalts, and the upgrade curve is quite smooth as well, which is good news if you want to use this as a league starter. Now here's a quick rundown on some of the key numbers for this build. First, for cast speed, this build takes 1 second for FlameBlast to reach the max stack. At max stack, it hits for around 770k damage, and the Valve FlameBlast will give you 3.7 million Cyrus DPS per cast. As you can see, this kind of damage is enough to clear maps, but pathetic for damaging bosses. But again, this is where they're going to fix the skill, so if all goes well, these numbers should be drastically increased, especially against bosses. This build also has a huge radius, pretty much the entire screen at max stack. This is with the increased area effect, supports and convergence ascendancy not active. So realistically, the mapping damage would be 430k per hit with 2 million Valve FlameBlast per cast instead. I also have Hero of Ash on the build for even better clear potential, and of course for more damage. So I'm sure this build will at least be a decent mapper in 3.17. Defense wise, it has 76 to 77 max elemental resistance, positive chaos resistance, 65% physical damage reduction, which can go up to 77 with armor flasks. And it has a decent block chance with the Rumi's flasks as well, at 55% block and 24% spell block. It has a 2300 molten shell which can go up to 3800 with armor flasks. It has 3400 frost shield when it's up and another 3000 primal ages, which is extra effective life pour against elemental damage. It has 500 energy shield leech per second, 300 energy shield regen per second, and it also has divine shield that recovers energy shield from getting hit by physical damage. In short, it's not the tankiest thing out there, but it's definitely enough to do high tier maps without too much worries. Now the question is this a good league starter for 3.17? My answer is, I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for now, because although the buff does look promising for now, 10 Exalt is probably still considered high as a league starter. And yes, there are many other cheaper options that can be used before you get to this final build. However, it does require a decent knowledge about the game to know what the alternative to get at different stages. And also, some of the gears might become significantly more expensive for the next league. The POE of my current build is down in the description if you want more details. And if the video is popular enough, then I'll make a more in-depth video on it. Otherwise, I'll probably start making a new build for the next video. Anyways, that's it for today. Subscribe for extra mirror job chance. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.